up, everyone? Welcome back to the Charter Podcast, brought to you by St. Xavier University. I am Ruthie Polinsky, and I am back with the boys, Clay Harbor, Alex Shapiro. Guys, great to see you on this Monday. It's a beautiful day outside, and we have lots to get to as we are quickly approaching the 2025 NFL Draft. We're starting to taste it a little bit, starting to get ever so close to finding out who the Bears take at number 10 overall. But before we get to that, fellas, I think it is important that we address the news of the last 24 hours. And really, it's arguably one of the bigger pieces of news across the NFL is that Kyler Gordon, the Bears cornerback, has been extended 3 years, $40 million, making him the highest paid slot corner in the National Football League. Let's start with your reactions. Clay, why don't you go ahead? I know this is something we've talked a lot about as probably the next big move that we were anticipating from Ryan Poles.
Yeah, we saw it coming. They asked Poles if that was something on his to-do list, and he said, yeah, it was something he wanted to get done. And you heard Ben Johnson, one of the first things he called out in his opening press conference was, I think we have a great nickel cornerback. Same thing with Dennis Allen. I think we have a great nickel cornerback, and we're going to find ways to utilize him. So the value obviously comes from the type of player that Kyler Gordon is, but the value also comes as he's going to fit perfectly into Dennis Allen's scheme. And they know that from the type of player he is, because he's an aggressive player. He can blitz. He can cover, obviously, in the slot. You can line him up in the box. He was even an outside corner his first year. If something happens, a couple guys go down, you could play him outside, even in base packages, instead of, taking him off the field. Maybe you take Tyreek Stevenson off the field. There's different ways you can utilize this guy. I know some people might say paying him the most for a slot defender, like that's a bit aggressive, but with the way the cap's going up in a year from now, that's not going to be the highest paid slot defender. And they already said, we value this guy. We know this guy. And I think most importantly is this was Ryan Poles' first draft pick. So for him, this is basically him clarifying like, hey, I have hit on some draft picks. This guy's getting my first draft pick ever. He's getting to his second contract. We think he is the best, if not one of the best, if not the best slot defender in the league. So he's staying here. And in the locker room as a player, when you start seeing guys get extended on your team, instead of you bringing new guys in, free agents, paying them, it's like a sense of pride of being a Bear. These guys are doing business the right way. If we play well here, they're going to reward us. So there's a lot of different ways to look at this thing. I think it was a great signing. I love Kyler Gordon as a player just because I know me as a tight end, he's a guy that you're not going to have a ton of mismatches with, right? If you're a nickel, he's physical enough to play in that run game. You're not going to get a man up on him if you have a tight end on him because he can get blocked by a tight end. He can elude a tight end in a lot of these blocks, but he can also play in the pass game. So he's one of those guys, this is how the league's going. They're trying to find mismatches. You're not going to get a mismatch on him. Fits perfectly. Love the signing. Great job, Poles.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Ben Johnson would know better than most how solid he is because he's had to scheme against him for many years now, right? And, I mean, we've seen it. In the run game, he's always mixing it up, not afraid to put his helmet in there. Solid near the line of scrimmage, open field tackling, so important. Has the takeaway ability, forcing fumbles, interceptions, important. Gotten better and better and better in pass coverage. That is an arrow up situation for him. I'm not going to lie, he had a rough go of it his rookie season when, as Clay alluded to, he's playing outside inside. At times in pass coverage, he looked lost out there, but he has definitely improved year after year after year. And then going back to the Dennis Allen scheme, again, I'm pretty much just parroting what Clay said, but I think it bears repeating. Dennis Allen was going to call more blitzes. Kyler Gordon had some nasty sacks last season when his number did get called. Just showed that knack, showed that timing, showed the good instincts to get the hit. And then as Dennis Allen upticks the man coverage, it's important that you're sound in the middle, right? If you're going to have Jalen Johnson on an island with the top guy, it's important that your slot corner is also really good. And then, Ryan Poles now. So he's extended a few guys who were not his players. And we talked about how that was important. Cole Kmet earned the extension. Jalen Johnson earned the extension. So the message to the locker room is DJ Moore.
Although DJ Moore, I guess,
brought him in.
His acquisition, but not his draft pick. But right. Yeah, his acquisition, sure.
But hey, I'm not only going to pay my guys. If you do well, I'll reward you. And now the same thing with a draft pick. Hey, if we bring you in here and you meet our expectations, you meet our standard, we will reward you handsomely. Highest paid guy at his position. We will reward you handsomely, reset the market. That's a huge motivator for everybody in that locker room and the incoming players. Oh, wow, Kyler Gordon just literally reset the market. I could be the next Kyler Gordon.
And to that tune, Alex, perhaps we're going to look at this deal in a couple months and say, wow, they kind of got Kyler Gordon at a nice deal because they did it when they did it. Other guys are in his draft class or other guys are going to start getting extended. And so for Ryan Poles to do this now, you're wondering if maybe this was to get a little bit ahead of the game and say, okay, maybe this helps us, rework the cap situation or do certain things that are going to make us look even better that we got this deal done when we got it done. And I think it cannot be understated that this was Ryan Poles' guy. And it's both of what you guys were saying. I think there has to be sort of an emotional connection and some sort of pride for Ryan Poles to be able to say, this is the guy I found. I drafted him. He is going to, sustain a coaching overhaul. He's going to do this with a new defensive coordinator. And I think what also I took away from this news last night was you hope that this means that Dennis Allen and Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson are all sort of really communicating about, hey, these are the guys that we're really excited about in our system that are already here. Because I honestly was a little surprised at first after I got to thinking about it, but I was surprised at first to say Dennis Allen hasn't even seen Kyler Gordon on the field yet. He hasn't even gotten to work out with him or see him really in action yet. So how does Dennis Allen, how does he know who's going to fit his scheme in this moment? So I think what I take away from that now, having thought about it, is that, he's excited about what he saw on film and from Kyler Gordon and vice versa. I think Ryan Poles likes Dennis Allen's scheme and how his players can fit into that as well. So I am very happy for Kyler Gordon. You guys know, this is a guy that does everything the right way. He's someone who works hard. He plays with a physicality that's, it's a tone setter. We talk about Jaquan Brisker being a tone setter. I think Kyler Gordon is also a tone setter. Freak athlete. Everyone sees the backflips out of the tunnel. This is someone that I feel like his potential really hasn't even been reached yet. This is someone that I feel like we're still going to see really great things come from. And it's great for the Chicago Bears, for Dennis Allen, for this defense, for the locker room, as Clay alluded to. It's really exciting and just really happy for him. Were you going to add something there, Clay?
No, I was going to say, to talk about what you said, is him in the locker room. I mean, he's a guy that's a really big locker room guy. Guys look up to him, hard worker. And that you see that because he was the Ed Block Courage Award winner for the Bears too. That's voted on by the team, the players. That's voted on by I think it's one teammate to be honored for their courage and inspiration throughout the season, right? So that's the team showing that that's how they feel about him. And that's coming from inside the locker room. So that's another thing. All these guys were pulling for him. They like him. He was the Ed Block Courage Award winner. When you're getting awards that are voted on by your teammates, to me, those are the highest awards you can get because these are the guys that are seeing you work, the guys that are in there day by day training camp. So I thought that was big. And I wanted to ask you guys this question. Now that Kyler Gordon is done and got extended, do you think Poles is done in the offseason, or do you think maybe TJ Edwards, maybe Joe Thuney, maybe one of these other guys get extended, and who do you think's up next if he is doing someone next?
I definitely don't think he's done. I think the timing of this also matters. I'm going to answer your question in a second, but the timing of this totally matters. It's not going on this extended thing of training camp. Will he, won't he? There's no unrest, right? That's that was a talking point last season with Jalen Johnson. He's so deserving of it. When's it going to happen? Is it going to happen before week 1? They got this done before. They're in phase 1. So getting an early head start, I think, is also great. That is great vibes. That it's like, okay, before you even touch the grass in training camp, we're going to make sure you're taken care of. You don't got to worry about the injury. You don't got to worry about any of that. So I think that's great. And the other point of that, to get back to what you're saying, Clay, is it gives him time to focus on somebody else, to take a look at Joe Thuney, to talk to TJ Edwards' client base, or to his agent. To me, I would probably lean a TJ Edwards over a Joe Thuney, just because of I'm interested in seeing what's happening in the draft, right? Does this great interior offensive lineman fall to the Bears that they have a super high grade on? We're going to get to some fun draft stuff in a few minutes. Is there a guy who they don't think is going to be there at 72? They have him graded as a top 50 player. He's there, but he plays left guard. Do you just draft him because you have such a high grade on him, and then maybe Joe Thuney becomes less of a priority? So I don't know that anything is going to happen soon, but I think, TJ Edwards is a guy who has proven to be a tackling machine. It'll be very interesting to see how he does in Dennis Allen's system. I don't know. I'll probably put TJ Edwards ahead of Thuney. And again, I don't think another thing is going to happen before the draft. This is probably the one draft move.
It does feel like if there are more moves coming, TJ Edwards would be next, just because that's a guy that's been here and has sort of the, the numbers and the history with Ryan Poles to have that sort of leverage. However, I do wonder if some of these conversations and discussions around contracts are going to maybe just take a breather for a while until these guys do get on the field with their new coaches and see if they're going to fit the scheme. I think there's still a lot to be determined about whether or not these coaches see these players, in their system. And Clay, you probably, you've withstood, coaching changes and changing teams and those sorts of things. And you can probably speak to the fact that teams want to get to know you on and off the field before they really commit to you long-term, which I think Kyler Gordon was, a well-known, well-respected player around the league that guys really knew. But maybe, Dennis Allen's like, hey, you know what? Let me get to know TJ a little bit. Like, let's see if, this is someone that's going to fit in the way I want to use him. Maybe they want to change where he plays on the field, which, Clay, I know is something we've discussed a bit on our Big Pro Football show, but I'll be curious to see if there is sort of a lull at this point, just to see if these coaches want to get these guys on the field first.
Another name that I want to bring up as a potential guy, I don't think it's going to happen soon because of his injury situation, and again, because of what happens in the draft. But Braxton Jones, a part of that same draft class. And let's say the Bears don't take a left tackle early on. Let's say he does recover well from this ankle injury. And let's say that working with Dan Rochar, he puts on a few pounds, adds that anchor that has been so elusive for him over the first 3 years of his career. If he grows, he could be another guy who could be eligible for a contract extension. Again, I don't think week one because a lot has to happen. A lot has to play out, but could be another huge success story for Ryan Poles, another guy who he found a, day 3 draft pick from a small school who honestly has played pretty solid left tackle, right? Has he been the best left tackle in the NFL? No, but he's been a pretty solid left tackle. So I do want to mention also Braxton Jones is again, if the ankle goes well, if he ends up being the left tackle again this season, and if Dan Rochar takes his game to the next level, another guy who could be totally deserving of a contract extension coming up.
I like it.
Clay, you asked us, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think TJ would make some sense. And just coming from Philly where he was so successful, he's been successful here. He's a guy that can play multiple positions. I think, he's only 28 years old. It's not super old. Linebackers can play a long time in this league, and I think that would make some sense. Ben Johnson has seen him on that crossover tape. He's another locker room guy that works hard, a smart dude that can get the plays out, and I think he would fit Dennis Allen's system from what I've seen. The guys that Dennis Allen likes to play at linebacker, he doesn't like the overly athletic linebacker that maybe isn't as heady of a player, that isn't as instinctive as a player. And TJ is an instinctive player, gets to the ball, can diagnose things. And another guy that could, obviously 𝗬𝗎, I think you trade for 𝗬𝗎 for a 4th-round pick. I think he's got a few years left in him. I'd get that done. And then maybe like a 1-year deal for Kevin Byard. Kevin Byard's season, to me, has been underrated. The year he had last year coming over here, I thought he played exceptionally well with what he was asked to do, and obviously with the stuff with Brisker, the injury stuff. So maybe giving him another year. Obviously, he's 32. He's a little bit older, but I wouldn't mind seeing Byard stick around, giving them a little bit of a veteran presence in that defensive backfield as well.
Yeah, great stuff, guys. Good convo around Kyler Gordon. But let's dive into the draft here. We'll switch gears here for a moment. And let's do a little bit of a mock draft. Now, it's still early, right? And a lot can change. For example, the New Orleans Saints come out with a freaking bomb last week that really changes the landscape of the draft. And we'll get to that. But I think it'll be fun, guys, just at this moment in time. We've talked a lot about the draft here on our show. We did our bracket breakdown in March Madness, and now I think it's fine timing for the two of you to go through we're doing the first 4 picks, right? We're going to do the 10, 39, 41, and 72. And you guys are going to do a little bit of a mock draft, and we'll switch off who goes first in each round or for each pick. And you're going to tell me who you think the Bears are going to take. Well, you actually are going to tell me who you would take, right? We're not doing who we think the Bears are going to take. Yeah. We're going to do who you would take and why. So let's start this thing off, guys. Drum roll, please. Okay, I was going to bang on my mic, but Edgar would be mad at me. Let's go with at number 10, okay? And we are assuming really the big name guys are off the board, including Will Campbell off the board, Armand Membou off the board, Ashton Jeanty off the board, okay? So among who you think maybe would potentially be there at 10, I'll let you guys sort of talk about potentially some options that would be there. Who will you take if you were the Chicago Bears at number 10 overall? Alex, would you like to go first this round? I don't know why I picked him, Clay. Hopefully you're not mad, but I'll let Alex go first.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Alex had a worse record last year than you, Clay, so that's why he's higher in the draft. Okay, that's what we're going with.
My record was a bit no. What are you talking about? I was 0-0. I did not play any football last year. I am totally even. No, I know I just got done explaining how if everything breaks the right way, Braxton Jones could be in line for a contract extension. In this scenario, maybe not so much, because I am going with a left tackle. In my opinion, this is a deep draft class for many positions of need for the Bears, but it seems like tackles, little smaller list. And that's kind of how it always is, let's be honest. So I am going with the man who won the award, the Lombardi Award for best lineman in the country last year, regardless of offensive line, regardless of defensive line. And that man is Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas. This is a guy who is super duper durable, which has been an issue on the Bears offensive line in recent memory. Get this, per Dane Brugler in The Beast, this guy has only missed 1 start over the last 6 seasons. That dates all the way to his sophomore year of high school. Since his sophomore year of high school, he has only missed 1 start in 6 seasons. That's crazy. The last 3 years, he allowed only 4 sacks at Texas. So 3 years at Texas, starter all those years, only allowed 4 sacks. And here's the other thing. He's also a really solid run blocker. Regardless of scheme, regardless of position. Again, some experts say he's one of the best run blocking offensive linemen in this class. He checks all the boxes. He's got the 33.5-inch arms, so we don't have to worry about the arm length. That's a check. Kelvin Banks, left tackle. Come on down. Braxton Jones now. probably for the first time in his career as a Chicago Bear, has serious competition at left tackle.
I like this pick, Alex. I think Kelvin Banks, obviously a need position. And here's the other side of it, too. I think we need to think about, obviously, 𝗂𝗏𝗃𝗀, Braxton Jones. Braxton Jones is going to be a free agent next year. So if you draft a rookie, a left tackle, even if he sits, even if somebody's a swing tackle for a year, you wouldn't have to pay Braxton Jones next year if Braxton Jones is your guy, if you have a guy waiting there. So this could have some cap implications as well. And like you said, it's one of those primetime positions. I like Kelvin Banks. I think he's going to be a solid tackle.
Can I chime in here for a second, Clay, before you make your pick?
Mm-hmm.
Where does 𝗂𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗀 fit into all of this? Because if you want 𝗂𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗀 who was a third-round pick last year, guys, let's not forget, that's a high draft
pick. Top of the third. He was dang near second round.
Almost a second-round pick, who was supposed to redshirt last season. We've talked about this a lot. He was not supposed to be on the field last year, which, say what you want about drafting someone who you didn't expect to play his first year, but I think it's worth noting, if there is someone waiting in the wings, don't you want it to be your third-round pick? And that's sort of why I'm sort of wavering on the Bears drafting someone at tackle this high. That's where I'm sort of like, we can't forget about 𝗂𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗀 or give up on 𝗂𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗀 at this point, just because of, a couple of ugly games in a season that he wasn't supposed to play. So that's where I'm sort of sitting here on the Kelvin Banks pick. I like it, but I think if you're drafting someone at 10, they need to be impactful in year one. They don't get to sit for a year. That's how I feel about the high first round picks. Like, they need to make an impact in year one, and they could, right? Like, there could be some competition there for Braxton Jones, but then it's sort of like, okay, well then are you just going to let Braxton Jones walk away? You could cut him and continue to let 𝗂𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗀 develop. There are some options there, of course. But just based on the way that the Bears brass sort of talks about Braxton as well as 𝗂𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗀, I just think maybe we're not giving enough weight to where they view that project going, and why I would maybe be wondering if the Bears lean another way at 10, which leads me to Clay.
Okay, no, that's well put. They've spoken highly of 𝗂𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗀. Ben Johnson said that they saw him as a developmental project. This guy has 36-inch arms. He's big. He's athletic. He played at Yale, so he didn't have much experience, and especially coming in that Minnesota game. I know we all got a bad taste in our mouth, but I've talked about this I don't know how many times, guys, as a rookie from Yale who played 10 games at left tackle because he was moving positions in college, to go for the first time ever using a silent count. They weren't using a silent count at Yale. He never used a silent count before. Yale, you could wave to your mom, your dad, your cousins in the stands. Those are only people at those games. Go to Minnesota. Minnesota, to me, was the loudest stadium in the entire league. You couldn't hear yourself think. You got Danielle Hunter. Okay, yeah, he has 4 penalties and a sack, but give this guy some time. Dan Rochar, I've been in a locker room with him. I've been in a meeting room with him. This guy knows how to develop guys. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not going left tackle, Alex. I'm not going left tackle.
Where are you going, Clay?
I'm going running back. Okay, and yes, Ashton Genty's off the board. And I know this might seem like it's out of left field. This guy happens to be visiting House Hall today. I am going with Omarion Hampton from North Carolina. That might sound crazy, but this is a huge position in need. In every team that Ben Johnson has coached, and obviously different Lions teams I'm talking about here, same team, but he has 2 running backs, and they're similar style. One is the bowling ball, is the Sonic, and one is the Knuckles. He's got a speed guy. He's got a receiving guy. When he took over as offensive coordinator halfway through the year back when DeAndre Swift was on the Lions, DeAndre Swift didn't get any carries. He went from averaging 16 carries a game to averaging 5 to 6 carries a game. He was a threat in the receiving game. His receptions went up. His usage in the receiving game went up. They need that guy. And to me, left tackle, this is a reach because I think that Kelvin Banks, I like Kelvin Banks, but I still think he's like a 20 to 40 pick along with a lot of the other left tackles. I think Ben Johnson knows for his offensive role, the running game is the biggest part of the offense to help Caleb Williams.
You know what else could sway Ben Johnson? Go
North
Tar Heels.
Carolina.
Go Tar
Yeah.
Heels,
And
baby.
how did 𝗰𝗏𝗀𝗀 end up at North Carolina, you ask? Was this guy just coming out of nowhere? He turned down Ohio State. He turned down Ruthie Polinsky's Michigan Wolverines. He had every team in the country offer him to stay home in North Carolina. I got a couple stats for you, Alex. I know you're a stat guy. Last year, the Chicago Bears were dead last in the NFL with running backs with 3.5 yards per rush. That's taking away Caleb Williams' runs and DJ Moore's end arounds and Rome Odunze's end arounds as running backs, 3.5 yards per rush. 31st in rate of runs that gain more than 10 yards. 𝗰𝗏𝗀𝗋 is a home run hitter. Swift was 45th out of 46 in rate of rushing attempts per missed tackle. Okay, so you need a running back that can break tackles, that can keep defensive honest, and I think that 𝗰𝗏𝗀𝗋 is that guy. And here's why I like 𝗰𝗏𝗀𝗋 so much. 6 foot, 220, runs a 4.48. He had a 38-inch vertical jump. He had a 10-10 broad jump, very explosive. Back-to-back years, over 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns. He's durable. Didn't miss a single game the last 2 years at running back. To me, watching the film, I got to be true to myself. I know what I see when I watch the film, and this guy is electric, and they need a running back. And I think the drop from Hampton, especially in style, there's a lot of stylistically guys. Ben Johnson talked about there's different flavors of running back. DeAndre Swift is a specific flavor. There's a lot of flavors like Swift. There's not a lot of flavors like 𝗰𝗏𝗀𝗋. Maybe Caleb Johnson, excuse me. Not Caleb Williams. But to me, you need 𝗰𝗏𝗀𝗋, different flavor, ground and pound. Give me the two running backs. He can catch and he can protect. Two things I've seen. Come on down, 𝗰𝗏𝗀𝗋.
But Clay, at number 10, like people are saying he's maybe going to go in the first round. This isn't someone that's like, okay, he's a top 10 pick. This is not a consensus. This is a very like aggressive choice for.
Neither was Jahmyr Gibbs until Jahmyr Gibbs was picked in the top 15.
I was teeing you up for that. Exactly.
He was a weapon. Like Jahmyr Gibbs, 𝗰𝗏𝗀𝗋, he's a weapon. And to me, I know that a lot of the consensus boards have him from 15, 14. I've seen him high 14, 13, somewhere around there. If Genty's gone, and I even have 𝗰𝗏𝗀𝗋 over Gnty. If Genty's there, I think, maybe the Bears take Gnty because he's another one of those guys, that bell cow guy you can hand the ball downhill. But you need both those flavors. And when I'm watching it, I think he's a top 10 pick. If Ashton Gnty didn't exist, 𝗰𝗏𝗀𝗋 is a guy that you're saying, oh my gosh, like this guy is definitely a top pick. And running backs, this was something I found interesting when I was doing some research on this. Last year, no running backs went in the first round. The last time 2 running backs went in the first round was 2018. And the last time over 3 running backs went in the first round was 2005. So it's been a long time. And I think this is a year where you're starting to see the value of running backs with what the Philadelphia Eagles were able to do in rushing more than passing. The only team in the NFL that ran the ball more than they threw it. So this makes sense to me.
If the Bears want this guy, don't you think they could trade back?
I'm not sure how far they can go back. You have to have a partner too. 1, find the partner. 2, I don't think you can go past 15 and think that you can get this guy because he's going to go.
Okay. So here's another variable that gets thrown into all this is that we alluded to this earlier, but the Saints may need a quarterback, right? Which really kind of throws a wrench in the draft and where the Saints, the direction that they try to go in. How could that potentially affect what the Bears do at number 10?
I think it helps the Bears a ton because this is a team that has so many needs. No matter on what mock draft you read, it's honestly kind of similar to the Bears. Oh, we have the Saints taking an offensive we have the Saints taking Will Campbell. Oh, we have the Saints taking Shamar Stewart because they need this great traits edge rusher coming off the edge to affect the pass rusher. It's the same needs that the Bears have. So all of a sudden, if you think, wait, are the Saints taking Shedeur Sanders? Are the Saints taking Jackson Dart? It takes one of those players who could be highly graded on the Bears board, slides him back one. That guy who's like, fingers crossed, is he going to be there with the Saints right in front of the Bears? That guy has a better chance now of just following that one extra pick to the Bears. So it's huge if the Saints do in fact go quarterback.
Absolutely. And I would say this. I do love Omarion Hampton, but if you have a guy like Mason Graham that fell, I would take Mason Graham. If Will Campbell, I know we've talked about his arm length ad nauseum. I still think this guy is a guy that could play. He's played in the SEC. He's always had the same length arms. His arm didn't shrink because he got to the NFL. I would take Will Campbell. But with what we have on the board, Armand Membou, I'd probably take Armand Membou, even though he is a right tackle. I think he could switch over to left. But with what you got on the board, I'm going to Omarion Hampton just because I know the fall-off running backs after him, a deep class, but with this flavor to go with DeAndre Swift, Hampton just makes sense here.
I like it. It feels a little out of the box, Clay, but we've known Ben Johnson to come from a little out of the box, and Ryan Poles, I think, likes to be, a little dangerous when it comes to I don't know why. I just went like that for our viewers watching on the screen. Okay, let's move on to the 39th and 41st picks. And let's group these together, guys, because they're so close. Let's start, Clay, we'll start with you this time since Alex got his first pick in the first round. Clay, who do you have the Bears taking at 39 and 41? In what order and why?
Okay, and I don't know. Honestly, I don't think this guy will be here, but there's a chance. And we had a list of players that we picked from consensus boards that we put on here. And this guy was on the board. I'm going to go with 𝗦𝗫 𝗰𝗶𝗹, the safety. Okay, and here's why. The Bears, obviously, we don't know where Jaquan Brisker is going to be with his concussion protocol. Okay, he's a guy that's had those concussions, and that's very tough as a player. You never know when the next one's going to come. And then we already spoke about Kevin Byard. He's going to be a solid player for you this year, maybe even next year, but he's 32. How long could this guy play? 𝗦𝗫 𝗰𝗶𝗹, when I turned on this film of him, this guy that played in SEC and was just elite. He can play in the box. In high school, he played middle linebacker. That's what he played. And we're talking about a guy that runs a 4.38, hit an 11.4 broad jump, extremely explosive, 40-inch vertical, destroyed the combine. But the tape backs it up. He can play in the pass. He can play in the box. If you put him on the field with a guy like Kyler Gordon, you got Kevin Byard back there, just an absolute weapon from South Carolina, safety, 𝗦𝗫 𝗰𝗶𝗹. Do you want me to go 41 as well?
No, let's let Alex do 39
okay,
first. Yeah.
Okay.
I like it, Clay. I like that.
Yeah, no, solid pick. Heading into this offseason, the talk was trenches. I've addressed the offensive line. Now I am addressing the defensive line. I will be adding 𝗦𝗫 𝗰𝗶𝗹, the defensive end from Ohio State. The Bears need more pass rush help, right? They added Dayo Odeyingbo. They cannot be done. They need to keep adding guys. And 𝗦𝗫 𝗰𝗶𝗹 was one of the most important players as the Buckeyes made their march to the national championship. Last year, he exploded for 12.5 sacks, 21.5 TFL, and during the college football playoffs, the 4 games of the college football playoffs, 6.5 sacks and 10 TFL. So this dude played his best ball against the best teams in the biggest moments. I want guys like that. And then, like Kelvin Banks, durable. This guy stays on the field. According to Dane Brugler, played in every single one of the 55 games that the Buckeyes had while he was a member of the Buckeyes. That included 35 straight starts. So, wow. Dude stays on the field. Important. And then just one thing to talk about the tape a little bit. The motor, super important for defensive ends, for honestly defensive linemen overall. But he's a guy who does not give up on plays. You see him making tackles on the backside, really good in pursuit. So he had that explosion in production this year. We like the motor. We like the durability. We like that he is helping the pass rush. 𝗦𝗫 𝗰𝗶𝗹, your new defensive end for the Chicago Bears.
I like it. And I feel like at these picks, guys, like you really can't go wrong because there are obviously this Bears roster is significantly better after free agency, but they still need a lot of pieces at a lot of places. So it just sort of feels like anywhere they go with 39 and 41, you could get 2 really good impact players in year 1 who are going to fit a need. They're going to fill a need. And if the Bears front office believes that this player at those picks is, going to add some depth or immediate impact at those places. Like that's a good spot to add.
Absolutely.
All right, Clay. All right. So then Alex, I guess we'll let you go first at 41.
Okay, sure. So now is when I am addressing the running back. I agree wholeheartedly with what was the argument Clay was making for taking Omarion Hampton at 10. You notice I didn't butt in because I was like, I agree wholeheartedly. I'm just making the move now at 41 because I do think it is a deep class. Yes, is there a drop off between the top tier and then the next guys? Clay is right. Yes, there is. But I think TreVeyon Henderson, who is my pick at running back at 41, I'm sticking with the Buckeyes, I'm sticking with national championships, is a guy who really fits the home run profile that the Bears and Ben Johnson need. You use the same metric that I'm about to use right now, which is 22% of his carries went for 10 or more yards per Brugler. That was the third best rate. So he's got that home run potential. The Buckeyes didn't use him a ton in the pass game, to be honest, but when they did, he was solid. Like, it's like, okay, you can catch the ball, you can be a threat. That wasn't his bread and butter, but this is something that he is very good at and is extremely important. He's solid in pass pro. He makes a big impact in pass pro, so you don't have to take him off the field on third down. You can let him hang in there. He will be just fine. And then just a little production for you. Over the past 2 seasons, he had over 1,900 yards and 21 touchdowns. And that includes last season when Quinshon Judkins comes into town and all of a sudden they're splitting carries. Still a ton of production, even when he was splitting carries with Quinshon Judkins. Those Buckeyes had a hell of a 1-2 punch. I'm going with TreVeyon Henderson, though.
All right, Clay, who you got at 41?
Firstly, I want to say I love both those picks by Alex. Alex, a guy that's he's eating his vegetables, and I'm starting with dessert. But you look what the Lions did a couple of years ago. What'd they do, man? They went linebacker. People thought they were crazy. They went running back. But I know what time it is, and it is time to go back to the trenches. And one of the reasons I passed on the trenches because I think some of these tackles can kind of be grouped together. And this is a guy that we had falling in our board, and I don't know if he'll be there. There's been some late firsts on this guy, but Josh Conerly from Oregon. You turn on his tape, and this guy, to me, is one of the most natural left tackles in college football last year. And he's a guy that I think will translate. Me and Alex saw him at the Senior Bowl. We both liked him a lot. He had a great week out there. He showed he's strong, but I think he's a great fit in a wide zone scheme that Ben Johnson likes to run. He's athletic. He's a guy that's got those ever elusive 33-inch arms. He's 6'5", 311, very athletic. 35-inch vertical at 311 pounds, a 5.05 40, 311 pounds is pretty crazy. So this guy's smart. He played in Oregon. He's a great pass blocker, but he can also run block. So I think you can get your running back. I think you can go and get your safety, these two need positions, as well as get your left tackle that you feel like you're okay this year, and you can have this guy maybe learn a little bit under some of these left tackles, under Braxton, under Darnell Wright, and you have Dan Rochar give a year with him before he's really asked to do as much as he's needs to do eventually. But Conerly, to me, has Pro Bowl talent if he is developed right. Love Conerly, so that's why I'm going Conerly at 41.
I love it. Really hard to argue those guys. I think probably my biggest question there would be, do we think TreVeyon Henderson is going to be there at 41? Right? That's sort of the big question mark, probably amongst all of those other guys that we've spoke about. In this 39 and 41.
It's hard. It's so hard to predict because
some of these guys fall. Some of them do. Yeah. And I think Henderson, like with Alex, he was my number 3 running back, and he's not. I think there's a fall off there, but absolutely parroting everything Alex said. This guy's good in protection. This guy can run the football. When it came to Judkins, I watched Judkins. I watched Henderson. Henderson by far and away. Caleb Johnson. Henderson over Johnson. So I think that was a good pick. If he's there, I'd be ecstatic.
I just wonder,
Gordon, we were surprised Kyler Gordon was there. We just done talking about this guy who's getting a big extension. That was a surprise that Kyler Gordon fell to the Bears when he did. So you never know.
with the running backs, it does feel like running backs are very trendy right now. I think because of the way that we saw running backs have such a huge impact in the playoffs and the really good teams and the best teams, the Lions, the Ravens, the Eagles, the list goes on and on about how important having a good running back was. So you do wonder if that's just going to be sort of like, because of recency bias and what we're sort of seeing and, Saquon getting paid and all those, sort of crazy, the crazy sort of, not crazy as in like not reasonable, but I'm just saying sort of this over accentuated excitement and hype and belief in the importance of a running back. You just wonder if that's going to be a position that people are going to really focus in on in the draft because it's cheaper, right?
He killed the combine too. He's a guy that, one of those guys that kill the combine, they just seem to have this trajectory that just takes him all the way up. And he's a little bit smaller, 5'10", 200. I guess it's not super small, but 4.43 home run hitter, 1.5, 10-yard split, 38-inch vertical, almost 11-foot broad jump, freak athlete. So that helps too. But my guy, Maurice Jones-Drew, former teammate of mine, had him mocked in his. Did you see that, Alex? He had him mocked at 10 to the Bears. So I've been seeing him all the way to the late second. Been seeing him as high as 10. 10 was the highest, but do love the player.
Love it. All right, guys. And then last but not least, let's look at number 72, pick number 72 with the 72nd pick in the 2025 NFL draft, 𝗂𝗏. The Bears select.
Okay. I was picking between two. I want a wide receiver just because I think they need a third wide receiver. And I think Alex is actually going to go there because I know he had a little crush on this guy at the Senior Bowl. But I'm going to go with 𝗵𝗟cy 𝗰𝗶𝗹. Okay, I just watched some film of him today when we started doing this, and I like him. He's light. He's 6'5", he's 245. He's a little bit of that Austin Booker type guy, but this guy can play. He had 12 sacks last year. He's a guy that can play in the run game, the pass game. He's a little finesse, but I think he would fit into this scheme, and if he was there at 72, I think he would give you an instant boost in that pass rush production. And like Alex alluded to earlier, they need another pass rusher. And for a guy like him to still be on the board right there, I think he's too good to pass up. He's got a high ceiling. So I would go with 𝗵𝗟cy 𝗰𝗶𝗹 at number 72.
Very interesting, Clay. I also had my eyes on 𝗵𝗟cy. Solid player. We liked him at the Senior Bowl. I got to talk with him for like 5 minutes at the Senior Bowl. Good dude. Good vibes. And would be a welcome addition. I think I'm going to take Jack Bech.
Yeah,
I'm not taking Jack Bech. We have Olamide Zaccheaus. We're good. I'm good. I am going back to the trenches though with 𝗰𝗏 off the board. I know Grady Jarrett and Gervon Dexter we're solid. We're solid at DT, but now on 72, we're in the third round. We can start adding some other guys behind there. I'm adding 𝗵𝗍ce 𝗶𝗶𝗋, the defensive tackle from Virginia Tech. Interestingly, like 𝗰𝗏, he's a little lighter. That's kind of the thing that it might be why he falls a little bit. He is a smaller guy, but at the Senior Bowl showed great get off, great instincts at the snap, which were really good. Experts just reading about scouts and people who actually know what they're looking at when they're looking at defensive tackles, because I certainly don't. They love his tool set. They love his technique. The feet, they like the way he chops his feet, changes up the rhythm of his feet to keep guys off balance. And yeah, like I said, he had a really strong showing at the Senior Bowl. We know Ryan Poles loves good Senior Bowl guys. So I have the Bears adding now to this interior group. We've alluded to it a few times. Joe Thuney, great now, short-term, what's your long-term plan? Kevin Byard, great now, short-term, what's your long-term plan? Grady Jarrett, supposed to be great now in the short term. What is your long-term plan? Maybe 𝗵𝗍ce 𝗶𝗶𝗋 becomes a part of that plan in the middle of the defensive line, because we talked about we don't know what the Bears feel about some of these guys. Zacch Pickens, another former third-round pick, he needs to take a big jump. We don't know how Dennis Allen feels about Zacch Pickens. We don't really know what Zacch Pickens, who was, previously projected to be kind of the future of that interior along with Gervon Dexter. That's a big question mark for me. So 𝗵𝗍ce 𝗶𝗶𝗋 just adds more talent to that interior group as well.
Are we forgetting about Big Bill?
I'm not forgetting about Big Bill. I'm not forgetting about Big Bill. But it's just like, Big Bill's like super locked in to nose tackle. I'm not looking at Big Bill as my 3 tech. I think 𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗃 could probably be a disruptive like one gapper 3 tech. That seems to be where he slots in like Gervon Dexter.
Okay, interesting. Clay?
Yeah, no. 𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗃 is one of those prospects that are interesting, right? And you can poke some holes, but I think the reason he could be available possibly, in this slot is because of those holes. And the only hole that I see Alex alluded to it, the guy's 6 foot, 280 pounds with 31-inch arms, right? If he was 6'3", 300 pounds, I mean, this guy's a first round talent. And we saw him at the Senior Bowl. Can this guy play football? And he's playing in a good conference. So he is shown on tape that doesn't slow him down. Am I worried that maybe he gets into some road grader, some of these big double teams? Can he hold the point at that size? That's a question. Mason Graham was undersized. There's some of these guys in this draft that's undersized, but if he's there, he's worth taking a flyer on, even though he is, extremely light for that position.
Love it. Any rebuttal there, Alex?
No, that's why I was like, let me get this out of the way early. He's a smaller guy.
Yeah. And you look at it, right? Like Gervon Dexter, not a small man, right?
Huge man.
Large man, came back. Look at, you guys saw that picture of him walking into the building.
Yeah.
I'm like, this man is like lean and athletic. I mean, lean, is that an okay word to use? Yeah. So it's like for a defensive tackle, but like he is like long and lean. And so you just wonder, is this too different of a profile of like a player that you could maybe interchange there with Gervon Dexter? But I think it's interesting. And also, guys, I mean, we want 𝗪𝗪 𝗪𝗀𝗪 to be a great pass rusher, but this is also someone that can play in the interior, right, Clay?
Absolutely. I think that's honestly where he's most effective when I watch him. And you talking about looking at Gervon Dexter, look at 𝗪𝗪 𝗪𝗪𝗪. When he comes in there, he looks like a defensive tackle. I mean, he's a big, strong dude that obviously we've talked about can play 5. He can even play 3 technique, so he can move all across that front. But I think that would give them a lot of versatility. Just like you got different type of guys, like Ben Johnson said, your receiving core. You don't want a team full of, 6'4" basketball players on your wide receiver crew. It's a different type guy. And I think Dennis Allen, he could find a place to use this guy and put him there in pass rush situations and use his quickness and his speed and his elusiveness inside. And that's something that me as a player, I know, like those guys like him were the toughest ones to block. The guys that were just going to bull rush you every play. Okay, I know you're not going to. He's a guy that's got a little wiggle to him. He's got some shake on that inside. He knows how to get one half of a man. And he knows how to use his body. So it is a little bit small for my liking, but that's why he's going to be there. You take a flyer on the guy to see how he plays come training camp against some of these interior linemen. And if you do take a guy like that, you're going to find out right away. Why? Because the Bears got some good interior linemen. It feels good to be able to say that in a training camp. You're going to see right away, can this guy hold up against some of the best?
It's great. It's a great conversation. Clay, I'm a little shocked. Mike Green never popped up in your mock draft.
Man, I know. You guys know how I feel about Mike Green. I love this guy, but just that running back position, Genty's off the board. I just don't think that Ben Johnson, with the way he runs his offense, can risk maybe missing out on that position all the way to 41. If Travion Henderson is gone, Caleb Johnson could be gone, then he doesn't have a big piece to his puzzle unless you really think highly of Roschon Johnson. He's had some injury things. Depends how you feel about him as well, but it was just too risky to pass that up.
I also want to point out one other thing that is worth considering as we get closer to the draft is you wonder if Ben Johnson wants to accumulate more picks for not just this year, but years to come. This is a man who was just paid $13 million a year for, 4 years? Like, he's going to be here for a little bit, right? He's playing a little bit of the long game. Of course he wants to win now, but this is someone who knows that he can continue to build his roster through the draft because he's going to be here. Conversely, Ryan Poles maybe feels more of a sense of urgency, not necessarily with his contract situation, but because he's been here, he wants to win, and he wants to win now. And so I wonder sort of how that matchup will maybe go head to head in the draft room, like on draft night. If there's a possibility that they could trade back and accumulate some picks, and Ben Johnson saying, come on, we got years here. And Ryan Poles is saying, no, I want to win now. You just wonder. It's something to consider as we sort of get closer and closer to the draft. But
also shocked, no tight ends taken. We didn't draft any tight ends.
Don't be sleeping on my boy 𝗵𝗀, everyone.
No shade towards 𝗵𝗀, but there are some talented tight ends in this class.
There really
what's the next pick after 72? Because I know obviously the 4th round pick they gave up for 𝗬𝗎 there, because it's a deep tight end class, and there's some guys that me and Alex both liked at the Senior Bowl, like Jake Bringringstool, Harold Fannin Jr. The guy I just watched some tape and put a tweet out today that really impressed me. I was watching the film and go, how come we never talked about this guy? Oronde Gadsden, and he's projected like 7th round pick. I mean, he reminds me of a poor man Jimmy Graham, but there's just a lot of tight ends out there that I think you could bring in, not full players that can run, block, catch, but guys that could definitely do a role.
I thought you would take. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Alex.
I was just going to answer the next pick is 148.
Yeah.
So another top 150 player.
I'm surprised, Clay, you didn't look at Mason Taylor at 39 or 41.
You've heard me talking about Mason Taylor. I love that, how he's a full service tight end, right? He's a guy just like we've talked about, if you have a Tyler Warren there, he can block, he can catch, he can do everything. And that opens up the offense. But, after going running back, I just felt like safety was a big need. And having Nick Emmanwori there, impossible for me to pass up that type of playmaker. And then let's go back to trenches. Josh Connolly's there. Let's go Josh Connolly and get a left tackle that you could honestly have on your team for 4 or 5 years as a primetime player.
Oh, it's great stuff. And things will continue to evolve and change over the course of how many days till the draft? I'm like, let's go. Let's get this show on the road here.
Next Thursday,
10 days.
Wow. It's a week from Thursday, huh?
A week from Thursday.
Yeah.
And watch every single one of these players get picked before we had them slotted.
100%. None of them are going to be there. But maybe, Will Campbell will fall. The craziest things happen during the draft, and it's just going to be so fun. I just love this time of year. So anyways, nice beefy media episode for us guys today. Really appreciate all this conversation. It was a blast. We will be back here later this week with potentially a special guest. Teaser, maybe. I won't tease it just in case it falls through, but we're excited about it. And that's going to wrap this thing up here, guys. Appreciate both of your time, and we will get this show on the road. Just some programming notes. No big pro football show. Today's Monday, obviously, or Tuesday. We will have shows Wednesday and Thursday. So we'll cover all of this. Just me and Clay this week. Just the two of us.
Maybe we can have a little guest appearance from Alex Shapiro to talk some draft on the Big Pro Football Show as well. I mean, I'll float that idea.
Okay, love it. Love it. We will get that show on the road. Fellas, great stuff. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in. We will talk to you again later this week. Have a great few days, everyone.